Welcome back everyone, it's Fauxtaku Lounge with a new video. This time I'll be comparing 4 pieces of software under 2 different test conditions and 2 lenses. Both lenses were mounted to this camera, the Actis Mini with a GFX on the back and a Mamiya 645 to M39 mount on the front. The 2 lenses are in question, are the Nikon EL 105 f5.6 and another enlarging lens, the Sinaron 105 f4. The subject they take is a Leica SF40 flash, which is rebranded E40 from Nikon. These 2 lenses share the same mount, but they have 2 different functionalities, both of which make close-up photography in especially a cramped studio like this one really helpful. The Nikon will mount and then twist on the mount so that I can move the aperture to the camera's left, bottom, top or right, so that no matter where I'm positioned near the camera, I can always see what aperture I have chosen, both for taking and of course for actual shooting. The Sinaron does not rotate on the mount, but it allows both clickless aperture shifting as well as clicked. And by simply rotating the, by pulling up the aperture ring, I can then shift it to a minimum aperture, and then automatically have the lens, after shifting it, go to the minimum aperture that I want to do for taking. This saves a lot of time and doesn't require me to see the actual aperture setting before taking it. Now, as you'll notice, the subject here is not a macro size image, a macro size subject. In fact, from the distance I was taking, it probably ends up being, especially with the GFX sensor being the taking sensor, about 1:3 or 3:1, I don't know how you say it, life size. So we're not comparing these at macro distances. I'll do that later on. For this time, the only thing I've done is taken the same 30 or 40 images, compressed them using Helicon Focus and Affinity Photo, and also then processing through XTrans and through Lightroom, and having that image set taken twice, once with the Nikon and once with the Sinaron, to see not only which lens is sharper, but which suite of software or combination of softwares produce maybe the sharpest or the best result, at least for what I would consider publishing material. Now, I just want to show you quickly how the lens mounts on the camera and why I consider both lenses to be real time-saving lenses. Now, this lens on the camera currently is a Nikon EL 150 f5.6, Beautiful lens, wonderful bokeh, something like 13 aperture blades. Not terribly sharp at 1:1 or even 1:2. It's really best at about 1:3. First, I'll mount the Nikon. As you'll notice, now the lens is perfectly mounted at the moment. The lens, after it's mounted, can be twisted so that I can see, at the moment I'm standing to the right of the camera, I can see now the aperture. But I can also shift it up top. So then if I was standing above the camera, then I can easily check the aperture. Or I can shift it to the left. And I think I can almost shift it to the bottom. Not that I'm generally on the bottom of the camera, but it's a unique function set that helps certain type of photographies, especially in a cramped studio like this one. And here's the Sinaron. And currently, the aperture is clickless, so I would just shift that with this button here into clicked. And again, I can move the aperture ring forward so that it stops down to a much smaller aperture setting automatically, or I can make it to go to 1 stop or even close it so that it doesn't stop it down at all. Very helpful lens. Before I get too ahead of myself, there's one thing I forgot to mention, and that is that this lens, the Sinaron, actually came from a DAB board, which was used on a large 4x5 camera. And because of that, the mount that it's currently in is actually not its original mount. This one is borrowed from an 80mm Sinaron digital, which this fits into. Both lenses then can fit into a DAB board on an automatic Ginor shutter. You just remove the elements like this and plug them right in. But because of that, this mount being designed for the 80 f.4 doesn't actually open up all the way for this lens. I'm not sure if you can see in the video, but you will see the aperture shape through the front element of this lens. So this lens actually ends up being very similar to an f5.6. So when in this test I will be shooting, both lenses were stopped down at equivalent apertures, meaning both of these are 105mm lenses. And this one, the Nikon, wide open is an f5.6. And this one, though it is an f4, is limited to a maximum of f5.6 because of the barrel that it's in. So that's basically the only difference. And of course, you can tell there is a substantial size difference to these lenses. Of course, one is faster, and it's also a little bit newer than the Nikon. And I think you'll notice that the quality between the two is different. The image to the left shows the results from Helicon method A and the one on the right from Helicon method B. Clearly B is sharper than A. This time the image on the left shows the results from Helicon Focus B and the image on the right shows the results from Affinity Focus. Both are clearly sharp, but Helicon Focus returns fewer artifacts. Similar to the first example, the image on the left is from Helicon Focus A and the image on the right is from Helicon Focus B. You'll notice the difference in sharpness between the two. It seems a pattern is emerging. On the left we have Helicon Focus B, and on the right we have Affinity Focus. Each time Affinity Focus is used to composite an image, there are more artifacts than there are in Helicon Focus B. For this reason, Helicon Focus B is my choice. As you may have guessed, the image on the left is Helicon Focus A and the image on the right is Helicon Focus B. And damn, is that Sinaron a sharp lens. On the left we have results from Helicon Focus B and on the right we have results from Affinity Focus. Both are as sharp as can be, but Affinity shows more artifacts. By now it should be obvious that Helicon Focus A is softer than B, and for that reason we're going to skip it. On the left we have results from Helicon Focus B and on the right from Affinity. As is always the case, Affinity returns more artifacts. The image on the left was processed through Lightroom and then Helicon Focus B, the image on the right through XTransformer and then Helicon Focus B. I see no appreciable differences in texture or sharpness between the two and both are equally publishable. Both XTransformer and Lightroom were set to defaults, but sharpness was then returned to 0. The most appreciable differences that can be observed throughout this video are that Helicon Focus A is a lot softer than Helicon Focus B or Affinity, and that the Nikon 105 is a lot softer than the Sinaron 105.
I love the field of view returned by a 100mm or 105mm lens when placed on a GFX, especially for macro. It's similar to the field of view returned by a 120mm lens on a 645 camera. That said, my favorite lens to pair with the GFX is actually a 120mm Schneider 8PO Digitar macro lens. Stay tuned for more on that lens. Until next time, this is Fauxtaku Lounge with geeky stuff about cameras and whatever else.